Right, tonight on the Cry Freedom Show, we've got part 2 from Robert Young's new book, Your Own Personal Supercomputer, based on the long-lost powers of humanity, an interview with Kevin Annett with updates from the ITCCS. But first, right after the introduction, I'm going to be over the moon to welcome an exclusive with Mr. Rob Freeman, who's going to be telling us all about his time in court today, and that is coming up right after this.
You're listening to Critical Mass Radio. Now, it's our turn.
CMR Critical Mass Radio in association with We Are Change Manchester and Freedom Northwest. Please note the views and opinions expressed by the hosts on this show are not necessarily the views held by the station. CMR is for people who want answers, because now it's our turn. Okay, good evening, folks. This is the Cry Freedom Show on Critical Mass Radio on Thursday, which is Scouts Night here on CMR at www.criticalmassradio.co.uk. Kicking off with myself, Lisa, and then my wonderful fellow Scouser, the fabulous Reverend George, will be coming up right after me at 9 p.m. with the Prisoner broadcast. So it's a full pan of Scouts here tonight on CMR. I do apologise for the odd expletive in that audio. I really did want to play one of George Carlin's because he so gets the point across. And quite frankly, it's impossible to find one without swearing in it. And anyway, it's just a word, isn't it? Well, I hope that everyone has had a good week. We've had a very interesting one here at the station, and also a somewhat traumatic one because one of our own has been under threat. But more on that in just a minute. It started off with an eye-opener of a show on Monday night on the Critical Mass Show when we had Alex Hunter, a Canadian activist, on live. Alex is literally putting his neck on the line to bring out the true facts about how we are currently being bombarded with poisons in our skies and through microwaves in the air, amongst other things. And I urge everyone who's not heard that show to catch it on the CMR podcast because this information needs to get out big time and as far and wide as it can, because we are talking about our very lives here and the lives of everything on this planet. So it really is that serious, folks. And we all need to sit up, take note and act accordingly to preserve the future of our kind to every extent. So please, please, please switch off your TVs and let's do this, people. Right, there's something of a landmark event for us here at the station this week concerns one of our own fellow hosts, Rob Freeman. Now, I've got to say, we are all very much a family here at CMR, and I mean that from the heart. We are a close-knit small team of people who are putting our hearts and our souls into this venture because we all believe it is the right thing to do. And we're doing everything we can to stand in truth and get out as much information to people as is possible in the best way we can. Because, and I know I keep saying this, but because it is so very important, we are at that crossroads now in our reality when each of us has to make a choice, and we can either carry on as normal, as if nothing has changed, or we can make a decision to stand up and stand out and do everything in our power to turn this world around into something we can hold our heads up about and be proud of. Anyway, back to Rob. Rob presents the Out of the Matrix show here on Wednesdays, and regular listeners will know that in his own unique way, Rob is trying to get as much information out as he is able about how he is fighting back against this tyrannical, corrupt, evil system. And to a very large extent, Rob has been a wonderful success story. And okay, he's had his knocks and he's taken them all on the head with courage. And each knock has allowed him to find out more vital information and move ahead in this battle for our freedom from slavery. And I have to say that all of us here have known each other for just like a few months, really. But it feels like we've always been so close. And there are some really strong bonds. And what's happened to Rob this week has deeply affected us, especially those of us closest. And basically, he's been facing a court appearance for the last 6 months or so, and it came up on, I think it was Tuesday this week. And I won't go into detail, but basically, with the evidence and paperwork and stuff that Rob had prepared for this, and believe me, he works damn hard at this and does his homework, he basically beat the system hands down, but as per usual, they refused to listen to us when we throw the truth in their faces, and they colluded, lied, and cheated their way through the hearing. And it ended up with Rob being asked to return today, this morning at 10 o'clock for sentencing. Now, Rob has understandably been knocked for six by this. He was knocked for six by this, not least because he has children to support. And it's been a tough couple of days waiting for this morning. And then we were all hanging on in absolute suspense for 3 flipping hours today to hear what had happened. And as each hour passed, we all got more and more convinced that the worst had come into play. And I basically had geared my whole show towards talking about the worst possible scenario tonight. And I should start listening to my own positive advice more, I know, yeah, but And then I think it was about 1:30 this afternoon, we got the amazing news that he was back, no prison sentence, and what we can only see as very much a victory to the common man, and that's common meant in every true sense of the word. CMR Critical Mass Radio Time to Ask conference is taking place from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Saturday, 24th of November 2012 at the Britannia Country House Hotel, Didsbury, Manchester. With 8 key speakers covering child abuse survivors, government cover-ups and the paranormal, what's gone wrong with British policing, what's really happening inside our courts, the trust relationship, debt and the economic enslavement, military basic training and techniques of mind control, how the Constitution, laws and regulations of the EU will enable it to hold us in slavery, and how we have been programmed with language for so very long. This is an event you definitely do not want to miss. Speakers on the day are Albert Burgess, Brian Clare, Tony Farrell and David Noakes, and CMR's very own Ben Evelyn Jones, Rob Freeman, Mark Howard and Paul Rippon. The world has reached a moment in time when it has become apparent to those who know how things really work that we all need to unite and move forward proactively as a matter of urgency to try our best to protect our future and that of the planet. Please join us at the very first CMR conference to help make that move in the right direction. And remember, knowledge is power. Tickets for this event are £20 and available via the CMR website at www.criticalmassradio.co.uk. The CMR Critical Mass Radio Time to Act conference, because now it's our turn. Okay, so that's the very first CMR conference, and it's one you really don't want to miss, folks, because if you want to make a difference in this world, we need to be all together doing stuff like this. So please come along to that on the 24th of November 2012. Right, now we should have Mr. Rob Freeman on the line. Are you there, matey?
Hello, can you hear me all right?
I can hear you. Can everyone else hear Rob okay? If you could just let us know in the chat room. How are you doing anyway?
I'm okay, thanks. You know what I've done, Lisa, again?
You haven't burnt your bloody pans again, have you?
No, I've not cancelled the player. That's better. I got an echo, that's all.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, the mic. Don't forget I've sat on my mic twice now, Lisa, so if you come through all right. You know what I'm like.
We know what you like, Rob, and we love you for it.
Rubbish.
Yes, well, as long as you've not got smoke all around you, that's the main thing. And if you turned your cooker off...
Can you believe it? My kitchen caught fire live on air.
Yes, I can, actually.
Yep, I was a trooper. I carried on. I couldn't see my hand in front of my face, Lisa, and I carried on. Can you believe it?
We could feel the smoke coming out of your ears, Rob. We really could, honestly.
And that's unbelievable, isn't it?
Anyway,
thanks for having me on. Sorry, go on, Lisa.
No, you're very welcome. It's a pleasure to have you on. I was just going to say, it's so fantastic to actually have you on tonight and for you not to be locked up somewhere. So that's definitely a very good move forward, I think.
Yeah.
So, and I've got to say, you kept us tearing our hair out this morning, Rob, for hours. We were all sitting here wondering what the hell was going on. And I'd written the rant of all rants for the show tonight because we thought it was going to be the worst possible case scenario because you hadn't heard from you. And then I think you rang Paul, or Paul rang you, or whichever way, and you kept him waiting because you were crossing a road before you told him what was happening.
Is that an official telling off? I deserve it, don't I?
In the nicest possible way. So how are you feeling anyway?
Yeah, I'm okay, yeah. It always takes a while for things to sink in for me. I was actually walking back from town to where I live when Paul rang, but what I did is I only have a rubbish pay-as-you-go phone. I won't have a contract phone. And I didn't put any credit because I thought I was going away for a while, so I couldn't ring anyone. So I was walking really quickly to get home to contact everyone. So yeah, that's why you had to wait a little bit longer, so sorry about that.
Well, we'll let you off. We'll let you off.
Okay, thanks.
So I was just going to ask you, Rob, basically, if you want to tell people, what do you think are the most significant, important aspects of this particular experience that you've just been through from your point of view?
Okay, well, I'll condense it all. Well, obviously, the intro you did just shortly explained stuff, and I did the show last night that explained the whole case. But the thing is, I try to come up with something that we can all use. I can get rid of quite a lot of court cases just using the trust thing and blazing in, but it's not for everyone, and it may not go away. So what I do try and do is, and I keep harping on about this, is mirroring back what they're doing, mirroring it back, making them look in their own mirror.
Yeah.
And so I'm not fighting them, I'm mirroring what they do. So by doing that in every avenue I can think of, it's got to work because they're using it daily on us. I'm not trying to develop a new system. I'm not trying to fight their system. I'm mirroring back what they do. I decided to do this from a long time ago when I started. So based on that, I came up with a plan, and it looked 99.9% watertight. So I did this in court. This was on Tuesday, and like you rightly said, it's gone on for nearly 6 months. This it's supposed to be driving offences, but as you may have heard on my show last night, it was never about driving offences.
Yeah.
Basically, I wouldn't give them my details from an initial incident, and it was bully boy tactics to teach me a lesson, and that's what it boiled down to.
Sure. Absolutely.
So, tell me if I'm rabbiting too much, Lisa.
No, you're never rabbiting too much. Carry on.
Okay. I like the way you said in his own unique way earlier when you were... I'll privately message you about that, you bugger. I'm only joking.
It's meant in the nicest possible way.
Does that mean he's rubbish at speaking but his info's good? That's what you were saying, weren't you?
You are such a self-critic.
I'm only kidding. Yeah, so, where was I? Yeah, I'll make it quick. When are you ready for me to push off?
No, don't make it quick. I'll tell you when you have to get lost. Don't worry.
Okay.
Carry on. You carry on.
Okay, sorry, boss. Yeah, so I'll come up with a foolproof plan, which I think it is anyway, by mirroring back what they do. Go to court. A few people came with me. Pippa came with me, and she's done a transcript if anybody wants it. I've asked Pippa, and she'll send it people of everything that happened in the court case. Basically, 4 charges. Driving without insurance, no insurance, a bald tyre, not big things, not giving me details, and the big one, driving whilst disqualified. When I caught with this system I got in place, beat the insurance one. I admitted I didn't admit it, but the bald tyre thing, I don't know whether it was under tread, so I tried to be as honourable as possible in court, and I said, yeah, it may have been under tread, so I conceded that one, fair enough.
Yeah.
Not giving me details, is there a law against it, which there isn't. So the big one that can give me, these magistrates in my town and judges, they hate me anyway, I've been hammering them for 5 years now. So they don't like me anyway. So the big one, driving whilst disqualified, can carry a 6-month sentence, maximum sentence, but anything you can get 5 months, 4 months, 3 months, 21 days, whatever they want to give you, or give you nothing. So that's what I was facing. I went to court, and I think I did a pretty good job, to be honest. I was like a real barrister, sat up front with my papers and stuff, and
Brilliant.
waving to my mates, in,
As long as you didn't have a wig on.
Well, I thought about that, I'm having that next time. If it's a case that I can't get locked up, I'm going to hire one of them wigs and strut about like they do.
I like it.
Yeah. So anyway, I beat them all in court. I think I did, and everybody that came with me did a great job. They retired it took them half an hour to come to a decision.
Wow.
And something really strange happened while we were in the foyer waiting to go back in for the magistrate's decision. 3-hour trial over driving offences.
Right.
Wow.
Had to pay his money, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Stringing it out, weren't they, for the money?
Yeah.
The barrister for the CPS came when waiting in the foyer before they made a decision. He came past and dead-eyed me with such an evil look that 3 or 4 of us burst out laughing.
Really?
Unbelievable. He looked at me like I'm the type of bloke who goes around kicking kittens or something. Do you know, like I'm a terrible man.
It's usually the other way around, of course we know, but yeah, carry on.
Yeah, so we all laughed and thought, oh, blimey, I must have got a bit of a result. So anyway, we go in, 4 counts, guilty. They circumvented everything I did, disregarded everything. The whole thing's will be on podcast from my show last night. So I'm guilty, that's it. So they want to give me the sentence there and then. So I quick thinking, as I usually am, I say, can you delay sentencing, please? Because I've got 2 children to sort out, I've got to make plans. buying myself time. So cut a long story short, yeah, they delayed it till this morning at 9:30, 10 o'clock. So they've disregarded everything I've said, Lisa. I've beat them on absolutely everything. They've proved nothing, and yet I'm guilty on all 4 charges.
Same old scenario, yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't do it. I explained last night. Normally they railroad me by shouting and having like blooming fits and that. This time, because I decided to follow their procedure, which is what they always shout at me for, because I don't follow their procedure normally. So I decided, because I've got a great system, I'll follow their procedure. And they did it really, really skillfully, really cleverly how they do it, behind smiles. You know, a few years ago, your enemies used to come up with you with a menacing look on his face and a weapon in his hand, but I'm afraid our enemies today come with a handshake and a smile. Do you know what I mean?
Better the devil you know, right?
Yeah, they were very, very professional, very jolly, very skillfully disregarding everything I was saying.
Yeah.
So today I go for sentencing. I've just got one friend with me because he's giving me a lift in. I give him my mobile phone because I don't think I'm coming out. And before I go in, I've got to see the what's called probation officer or something. I'm out on bail here, so I've got to turn up.
Okay.
So I'll go and see this lady probation officer, and she says, right, Rob, you've got three things that can happen. 1, a prison sentence. 2, an electronic tag, which is called a curfew apparently, and 3, some sort of community project, you know, like a work placement type of thing. You know, like I think it used to be called community service at one time.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so she says you're looking at, for the driving whilst disqualified, you're looking at either 1 or all 3 or any combination of all those. Oh, right, okay. So I say to her, well, I don't want an electronic tag on. And she says, well, you know, it'll probably either be prison, a prison sentence or the electronic tag. And I don't want the electronic tag on. I won't consent to that. So I say, well, I don't want the tag on. I say I'm electrosensitive. She says, oh, what do you mean? I says, well, electronic things affect me and make me ill, so that'd be no good. They don't. I just bloody made it up. And so she says, okay, then if that's what you want, you'll end up with 2 choices, prison or community service. Oh, right. Okay, then. So I'm willing to go to prison now at this stage, and I think, bugger it, they're going to give me 6 months, 3 months, whatever they're going to give me. I'm just going to take it, because I know I've won anyway, Lisa.
Sure.
Just by standing up with one, aren't we? And they've had to be unlawful and break their own laws anyway.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
You know, as you know, to convict me. So I get in there, different scenario, exactly the same courtroom. I've got one mate, well, he took his missus, so I've got 2 friends in public gallery watching, and that's it, just me. One magistrate, completely different from 2 days ago. A little old chap, ever so nice. It were like 2 mates having a chat over.
Well, there's a novelty.
Unbelievable change of heart, unbelievable. So he starts chatting to me. He said, would you like to sit down, Rob? He called me Rob. I thought, what's going on? So I sat down, and somebody from CPS read these guilty things out, and he says, right, he said, would you like to stand up? I thought, what? Okay, I'll stand up now. And he said, we can't discuss anything. He says, the magistrates have found you guilty, so we can't discuss any evidence. Today's purely for sentencing. So I say, okay then. Feeling the worst. Excuse me. Still got a bit of smoke damage here. I'll make this quick because it's dragging, isn't it?
Okay, go on.
Okay, so he says, right, I'm found guilty on all 4 charges. He says, driving without insurance, he says, there's no fine for that. He says, well, I'll stick some points on your licence. I thought, oh, hello, that's all right. Driving with the bow tie, I can't understand the correct terminology, but driving with a bow tie, he says, oh, there's no fine for that, but we'll stick some points on your licence. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, I just got away with 2 fines here. Not that I'm ever going to pay them anyway. And they've put points on a licence I've not got anyway. I sent it back years ago. 3rd charge, not giving details. He never mentioned it. So that's gone. So that's 3 things that I've not really been punished on. All they've done is stick some points on a licence that I don't have. And then the big... sorry. Then the big one, driving whilst disqualified, so I'm thinking, oh... He says, yeah, I've got a request here for the maximum sentence. I thought, hello. He says, well, I'm not going to do that. And then he paused, and I thought, he's going to give me 3 months. And he says, in fact, what I'll do is, he says, I've just had a word with the probation officer, and you're very keen to do some voluntary work, aren't you? And I went, well, yeah. You know what the voluntary work was, Lisa?
Yeah, go on.
Working in a shelter for homeless people. Well, I'd love to do that anyway.
Wow, yeah.
It's only 5 minutes from where I live. I didn't even know there was one. So I would have volunteered to do that anyway. I'd love to help out.
Fantastic.
So, my punishment for all that hard work, 6 months of threats, this, that and other, is I now have to do a few hours a week helping homeless people. But it gets better. It then says, driving whilst disqualified, your punitive, so punishment is that you will have to do so many hours working for homeless people. And I can't believe this bit. He said, what did he say? Oh, there's no fine for it. So I didn't get fined at all. So I've not been fined yet. 4 guilty charges. I've not had a fine yet. All I've had is some points on my licence.
Right.
That's the punishment for driving whilst disqualified. He then says to me, he says, Rob, he calls me Rob. He says, Rob, he says, you've got 2 options here now. I says, all right then. He says, one, I can disqualify you now. Another disqualification. He says, but option 2, he says, I think this might be better for you. He says, what if I stick a few points on your licence? Which means then, if you then reapply for your licence in the next couple of weeks, you can drive about. I thought, oh, bloody hell. I went, well, I thought, I'll take that option, thank you very much.
It's nice to have options, isn't it?
He was asking me, Lisa, he was asking me everything, never demanded us. And then the final thing he said is, he says, oh, we've got a bit of money to sort out. I thought, oh, here we go. He says, well, the prosecuting barrister put a bill in for 775 for the day, 770 quid.
Nice money, you can guess it.
I know. You know, the prosecuting barrister for the CPS.
Yeah.
He says, oh, no, Rob, you're not paying that. I thought, oh, no, I'm not. He says, listen to, he went, what do you think to 350 quid? I was dying to say, it sounds like something I'm not going to pay. But I thought, I can't take any more, Mickey. He's not actually giving me a punishment yet. I went, I thought to myself, it's a bit steep. I don't want to pay a thing, do I? No. So in the end, I agreed to pay 350 quid. But remember, it's not a fine. It's half the bill for the other side, which I thought it's quite honourable, isn't it, paying half his bill?
Yeah.
Even though I don't want to.
No.
So he says, oh, you're a single parent, aren't you? I went, yeah. He says, can you afford a £5 a week? I thought, well, I went, all right, if I push both out a bit, yeah, go on then. So I've come out a bit gobsmacked. So I've got to do some community work for homeless people, brilliant. They're never going to get any money off me, really. I might pay first bit, and that's it, but they stuck me points on a licence that doesn't exist, so...
Absolutely love it.
In a roundabout way, Lisa, we won, all of us that went, Pippa, all of us, we won on Tuesday, but these psychos are so far gone, they will not admit defeat no matter what, and rather than do it in front of everybody, they've used bully boy tactics, it's a completely different magistrate today, a really nice, in fact I'll go for a drink with him, he's ever so nice. And so he was the pleasant one, and he was. What I realised when I got out, somebody's put in the chat room, no gagging order. Yeah, homebrew now, no gagging order, no chance of that. So what I realised is, you know what, all this about prison, I could have got in today, Lisa, and said to him everything he asked me. I could have said no, I'm not taking any of it. Put me in prison. And what it is, Lisa, because they were so corrupt, the police were corrupt and everything, I didn't realise there's no way they could have locked me up. Whichever magistrate would have signed the order to get me a prison sentence would have made himself liable.
Absolutely.
And by making himself liable, all that corruption would have come out, because I did threaten to take to a higher court. Yes,
exactly. You hit the nail on the head, and I would call that a massive result. Rob, you should be proud of yourself.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel like a result, because they cover it over, don't they? They cover it over like they've won and I've been punished. He was so grateful when I took that, that work, that voluntary work.
I bet he was,
There was, oh God, he took something. So, how long have I got? A couple more minutes?
So, basically what you're saying is that it's like every step that you take and others take down this road at the moment is teaching us more and more every time about their system and how we can use it against them, which it's got what we've got to do, because it's the only option they've left us with, basically, right, isn't it?
It is, yeah, but a lot of people in this, I call it truthful, I don't know what to call it, and have not cottoned on to mirroring back what they do. They're trying to fight the system, they're going down legal route, and there's the original Freeman stuff that I first got into, not using the legal fiction name and not contracting, and all that is valid, it all plays a part.
Sure.
But I've tried everything, I've tried absolutely everything. The only thing I can think of is to mirror it back what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because... Go on,
I was just going to say, I suppose the thing that you wonder is it because you were lucky enough on the day to get a particular magistrate who was sympathetic in some way, or was he instructed anyway on how to act with you? It's knowing that, really, isn't it? Is it the luck of the draw, or is it because it's all been pre-decided anyway?
Well, I thought about that myself. It's a good question. It can't be the luck of the draw because I'm guilty on 4 charges, and
Sure.
I've been punished really on none of them. Now he has a guideline to work to. He tried everything not to give me any sort of punishment. He could have enforced that electronic tag. Otherwise, he could have said, well, it's a custodial sentence. He could have done what he wanted. He could have just given me 21 days in prison.
So was that down to him, though, or was that down to what he's been told, I wonder?
Okay, I think, in my gut feeling, that he was purposely put in there for today because he was really, not only was he pleasant, all the staff were pleasant today. Everybody were far more pleasant than they were 2 days ago. And
Wow.
I think he was purposely put in there because he could pass off this leniency a lot better than the stern-faced ones could.
Right.
And what I realised is that I was never ever going to go to prison, Lisa, because I didn't know that till I came out today.
Of course.
Because they had nothing. It was one massive bluff. That's it. That's all it was.
Yeah.
And whoever did, I mean, I threatened to take to a higher court. So if you think about it, all the corrupt police statements and evidence that was all the illegal stuff, everything, would have had to come out at a higher court. They didn't want me going to a higher court.
Of course.
But they didn't want to admit defeat either. So the next best thing is to find me guilty on all charges, but give me absolutely hardly any punishment whatsoever and smooth it over. A bit of payoff, a bit. They bought me out in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. No, I get you completely. So, last question then. In what do you think you've learned from this that might be useful for us in the future then?
Oh wow.
Or did you think about that for a bit longer?
Yeah, that's a good question, isn't it?
You probably need to mull on that a little bit longer.
That's a good question. I have learnt loads, and I'm going to push off now. So what I'm going to say is, what I have learnt more than anything is that we don't think we're getting anywhere because they are so corrupt. And I even said it on my show last night, because I weren't down last night, but I was just being realistic. And what I want to say is, we've got this radio station is leading the way in as far as the alternative media is concerned. But there's other great groups as well, and there's Rob I can see in the chat room over there from Ashton doing fantastic stuff. And I just want to tell everyone, if you're losing heart a little bit, like we all do, like I did a little bit, we're getting closer than you think. There's people working behind the scenes. We're getting really, really close. The more overt and obvious, obviously corrupt they are, like they showed on Tuesday, the more they're panicking because they've got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we stick a big enough mirror in front of them, like I say, mirroring it back. And at some point, they eventually got to look at themselves, and that's what I think is happening. So don't lose heart. We are getting there, and we're all doing it together. Thanks to everyone for fantastic support. I've had that many messages. But even more than the messages and everything, I know you sent me some positive vibes out, and I know a lot of people did. And believe it or not, it really felt like you were all there with me in that courtroom today.
Lovely, great.
It is great. So we don't need you.
I wish we could have been in reality, but yeah, you know.
Well, I think you were. I think everybody was. I felt it, and I didn't feel alone. And that's what the message I want to get out. Lisa, we're not alone. None of us are alone. And I don't even think we're going to need internet. So on all this radio station, I think we'll be able to do it telepathically because it felt great today.
This is what it's all about. And so it's been a great day for you, and a great day because we don't have to visit you with the file cakes in the nick now. And it's a significant day, I feel, also for our basically our ongoing and ever-increasing fight for freedom. And just to finish up talking to you, Rob, by saying the same as Paul did last night, we are a close, strong team here at the station, and all of us know how much effort you put into all of this. And you do it for absolutely no reward other than to know that you're helping to make a difference for everyone else, and you're fighting for your children's future, which quite frankly is the only thing that any of us should be doing now. And you spend many, many hours researching all this stuff, we know, and I know that you quite often fall asleep at your desk, and you live off pickled onions and Kit Kats. No doubt with burning pans and headphones all around you.
You put a camera in my house.
But rest assured, it is all for a reason, and you know that yourself. And many of us now believe that we're all being brought together for an important purpose, and this is our greatest strength, and the unity and the love that we feel for each other. And at the risk of sounding corny, as per usual, this is what will set us free. And you know we all love you, Rob, and we're all made up that you're back, and that you'll be back doing your show next Wednesday. So please keep doing what you're doing, and it's what you're here to do. Have a great evening. Get yourself a few beers to celebrate, because you blooming deserve it. And I'm going to put a track on for you in a sec. So any last words you'd like to say?
How can anybody follow that? Thanks a lot, Lisa. Brilliant. Okay, thanks to everybody for listening, and cheers for all the support. Yep, brilliant and great show, Lisa. I'm going to get back in the chat room now.
Thanks, Rob. Could you end the call at your end? I feel awful saying that, because you must know that anyway.
I do, yeah. I'm going to crack open a beer and listen to the rest of the show. Cheers,
all right,
Lisa.
Well, this is just for you anyway, Rob. Take care. Have a good evening.
Thanks, cheers. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Okay, so well done, Rob. Great to have you on here, and you can turn your cooker back on now, okay? Right, just to say, there are in fact, as we all know, many, many injustices going on day in, day out in this country and in fact around the world. And it will only be when more of us, much more of us, wake up to the realisation of how this world is really working and how we are all stooped in slavery that's designed to keep us down and reward the few at the top who want it all. So to a large extent, I see what's happened this week, even though it has turned out nowhere near as bad as we feared, as a massive wake-up call to pull us all into action. We need to use this to give us more and more heartfelt incentive to do what we need to do to overcome this mess. So in a nutshell, I urge everyone listening to take note of what is happening, listen to our shows here on CMR because we are getting some vital information out about what's happening out there, what is happening behind the facade of your everyday lives that are filled with our personal worries and entertainments, because behind all this at the moment it ain't pretty, in fact it's bloody downright ugly. So we need to cast aside all these deliberate distractions, get our fingers out and move forwards in as big a group as possible, so let's do it. So next, I want to play an interview that I did yesterday with Kevin Annett from the International Tribunal into Crimes of Church and State, which is the ITCCS, and he's actually updating us on his recent trip to Europe, his banishment from the UK, and the latest news on the common law courts that are currently convened to try the Church and State for crimes against humanity. Now, I do apologise, there are a few strange background noises at times on this track. I have no idea where that came from. It was the first time I was using this Skype software, but it doesn't interfere too much. So that's Kevin Annett coming up now.
You're listening to Critical Mass Radio. Now it's our turn.
Okay, this is Lisa on the Cry Freedom Show, and it's Wednesday, the 10th of October, 2012, and I'm just going to talk live to Kevin Annett, who is joining us again. Kevin was last on the show on the 23rd of August, and this was just because ITCCS launched the Common Law Court on the 15th of September to judge evidence against the Vatican and other churches and the state. Kevin has just returned back to Canada after a tour of Europe, which unfortunately did not include the UK due to him being forbidden to enter the country. So welcome back, Kevin. How are you?
Thanks, Lisa. I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure, a pleasure. Well, I thought just before you give us all the latest news, maybe you could start off by just telling people about exactly what happened regarding you not being allowed to come back into this country.
Well, as you know, the first time that happened was last year in May 2011. I was detained at Stansted Airport. And in the course of me coming to Europe recently, there was a communication that was received by me, and it said basically that the Home Office in England was preparing to detain me if I attempted to come back into the country. And again, they didn't give a reason why that was, but clearly, it's very much, I believe, because of the fact that we have been naming the Crown of England as an actor in these crimes against children, against Native people, and so on. So I think this is more an act of desperation on their part, simply not wanting the truth to come out now that we're posting a lot of this stuff up online as part of our common law court.
Yeah, too right. Okay, well, you did manage to get into Ireland, thankfully, and meet up with the ACAW, which is the Anti-Catholics Activists Worldwide. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what happened when you were over there?
Yeah, it was really good, actually. I met with John Deegan, who has been leading protests and occupations of the Pro Cathedral, the main Catholic cathedral in Dublin. And it was very encouraging to be with John and some of the others and see the extent to which they're willing to confront the Catholic Church over these things. It's a fact that he has forced the Archbishop Dermot Martin to actually respond to some of the demands they have. For example, the defrocking of known child raping priests and that kind of thing. Just by taking these direct actions in the cathedral, I expected him to be arrested or that kind of thing that happens in Canada and other countries. In fact, quite the opposite. They're quite intimidated by the fact that this man is willing to go in there and confront them directly. So I think it shows you what can happen when people take that kind of direct action. I've met with other people in Ireland who were survivors of the Magdalene laundries and these other criminal actions by the Catholic Church against children. And there's a real move there now to do what we've done in Canada, and that is identified grave sites and try to reclaim the remains and bring these remains of these kids back for a proper burial. So, on the one hand, that was all still going on. But on the other, like I found a number of countries, there's a real attempt in the media to shut out any information of this. There's a real control of information happening. So we have to continually fight against that, and that's, one of the reasons that, we especially need to get people to take this information and get it out through their own networks now.
Yeah, the ongoing control of the media, yeah. One of the things I read out, I did listen to the interview that you did with Mel V, and I did actually read out on the station, just going back to what you're saying about the church being intimidated, because you did sort of bring up the question that a lot of people would question that these very people who create the law will be able to bend this so they won't hold themselves accountable by law. But as you said, this is only if we operate within their box, and this is why it is so important to start weaning people away from their dependence on the system, basically.
Very much. And as a matter of fact, speaking of Mel and her husband Richard in Holland, after Ireland, I went to stay with them and to do some work there. And, the Sunday after I had been in the cathedral in Dublin, I was in the main Catholic cathedral in Amsterdam, St. Nicholas Church. We had exactly the same response. We walked right inside the church and were leafleting Catholics about the law in the Vatican that orders Catholic priests to cover up child abuse and to protect child rapists. We said, in the leaflet to the Dutch churchgoers, we said, don't give money to this church. They're committing a crime, by protecting these child rapists. The head priest came over, and he was very intimidated. We asked him point blank whether he was prepared to tell Rome that they weren't willing to enforce this policy, and he wouldn't do that. But he was very on the defensive, and you could see that just as in Ireland and other countries, when you go right into their church and talk to their people, that's what they fear the most.
Absolutely so, yeah. Okay, we have been highlighting very much on CMR here what is going on in this country and, of course, many other countries with regards to the horrendous child abuse which is going on so covertly all over the world. And it's something which very much goes all the way to the top, as a lot of us know. And we've had some very brave abuse survivors on the station telling their really harrowing and heartbreaking stories. And we did also play an audio of your speech that you sent to be read out at the Child Abuse March and Rally in Trafalgar Square on the 29th, because obviously you were given no choice to attend this due to the ban. And we all realise here at the station how completely desperate the situation is and how it's got to be one of the most vital issues that needs addressing in our current times, basically. And, of course, at the forefront of this is the shielding of the Roman Catholic Church from prosecution by the heads of state and the governments around the world. Do you want to talk a little bit on that at all? Or?
Oh, very much, Lisa. And, I do want to say to the listeners, I'm very sorry. I know it was beyond my control, but I knew that a number of people were hoping to see me in Manchester and Liverpool especially. And I want to promise people that one way or another, in the spring, I will be coming back to Europe in March and April, definitely. And I will be attempting to enter the country with support from people in England and other places. So, there will be a way that I will finally come and be able to speak in these communities. Let me just say, too, that especially I think this is important because I want to just tell a short little incident that happened recently that related to the British government. One of the oldest residential schools in Canada, the Brantford School, the Mohawk Institute, was the site of our attempt to excavate the remains of children who had died there they were buried in a mass grave. Well, last January, apparently, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Rowan Williams, in London, actually ordered Anglican bishops in Canada to cover up or even destroy all of the evidence related to that school. Now, that was communicated to us by a researcher for the Anglican Church. So, the Queen's representative, the head of the Church of England, is ordering a criminal cover-up of evidence at a crime scene, which is where children were buried. Now, that shows you the level of desperation, operating, and it shows that the heads of these churches are not only willing to protect child rapists now, but, destroy that evidence of their crimes against children, in the past as well. So I think that from what you were saying, it's very much the case that this is an issue that people can't ignore anymore. We have to confront these heads of state, heads of churches for these kinds of criminal acts.
Yeah, absolutely. And sad as it all may seem, we have no surprises with the way these people act, do we? Unfortunately. Just to catch what you were just saying before about trying to get back in April, March and April. Again, as you said, it's all about supporting each other, and we keep emphasising this all the time on the station, that we need numbers, we need people to support each other, because it's the only way we're ever going to achieve what we need to achieve. Yeah?
Absolutely, Lisa. And, even if it's only 3 or 4 you're right now, keeping up a public presence on the issue, going out and leafleting the churches, speaking to groups and getting them to endorse our campaigns, getting them to look at those 10 demands that we issued, which are posted on itccs.org on the May 4th posting. These requirements, as a matter of fact, something that people should know about, is that when I was in the Netherlands and I went to Brussels after I was with Mel V and her husband, I was actually talking to an official of the European Union. And that person said that it's because of the research that we've been putting out, which has prompted them to consider bringing a motion to condemn Canada for genocide. It may not seem like we're having an effect immediately, but over the long run and in the background, there's an amazing effect getting this information out has. So even small actions, rallying people, has a really important impact, and I wouldn't underestimate that.
Absolutely so. Yeah, sure. Okay. So really, that sort of brings me to the present date, and I know you've got a notice that's coming out today. If you want to tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, people go to itccs.org. You'll see this posting that just came out. On September 21st, we issued a public summons to 32 officials of church and state. This included the Pope, major cardinals, the Queen of England, and heads of churches and governments around the world. This public summons required that they come and answer charges that they not only conspired to cover up these crimes, but they in fact were engaged in these crimes against children, against Native people in the Indian boarding schools and elsewhere. Now, of all those 32 people, only one of them has responded. A researcher for the government whitewash here in Canada, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And this researcher, John Malloy, didn't deny any of the charges being brought against him. He simply made threats against the court, the International Common Law Court we're involved with, saying that he was going to accuse us of harassing him and that kind of thing, and lay charges against us with the Ontario Provincial Police. Well, what we told Mr. Malloy is him doing that can be seen as an attempt to obstruct justice, to stop a genuine investigation into these crimes. We haven't had a denial of any of these charges by any of these heads of state or churches, which is very significant because they're not contesting the facts. They're not saying, no, we didn't do these things.
Yeah.
That kind of silence, suggests an agreement with the facts in a court of law, and that is they're not denying any of these things. So that's a very important step to get them to not acknowledge it, because it's a form of admission of guilt in a way. Now, what we're going to do is proceed with the court anyway. Next Monday, the 15th, we're going to be introducing online a lot of this evidence for people to look at, for our 58 citizen jurors to look at, and that includes about a dozen people in England who looked at the evidence and rendering a verdict on the first round of cases. So that'll be going on right up to Christmas, and then we're going to do a new series of cases, that's going to be posted at that itccs.org site. So I really encourage people in England to follow this work and to be involved in it.
Sure. So in an ideal world, what do you see the outcome then at the end of this? What's your vision of what might happen?
Well, it's really important, Lisa, to know that this isn't just a legal process. This is an attempt to mobilize the community around a simple principle, and that is when the courts and the police do not protect our children, do not bring criminals to justice, we have the right under common law and the necessity to do that ourselves. And so it's not just an attempt to render a legal verdict, but also to mobilize the community to take action in their communities. For example, people in Ireland and America have talked about performing citizens' arrests and performing defrockings on known child raping priests, expelling the church from their community if they don't, protect their children from these predators, and that kind of thing. So that kind of direct community action is really an important way to accompany the actual common law court. In terms of the verdict itself, though, we intend to render an enforceable verdict, that is, to allow the sentence to be applied by other courts. We intend to work with courts in other countries, for example, in Spain, where courts have the right to arrest heads of government and that if they appear on their territory, if they've committed crimes against humanity. So we're going to be doing all of those things, and it's an unfolding process. It's just beginning, and it really requires, as you say, a lot of people's involvement to make it work.
Yes, indeed. And again, this is something I always think is the biggest hurdle is quite frankly ignorance. The amount of people that just do not know what is going on around them. And that is what we're all fighting against, because that's what we're trying to do on the station. We're trying to get as much information out because most people just do not know what is happening. Sorry.
I often say to people, the itccs.org site is the one to follow our updates and the workings of the court. But if you really want some background, go to hiddennolonger.com. It's got a lot of our evidence posted online of what the Crown of England and the Vatican and other groups have done against Native people in Canada and the U.S. You know, the hard evidence of genocide, sterilization laws, the massive death rates, all of that is up online, hiddennolonger.com. So circulate that site, get people to read it, and get on board with the work we're doing. It's as easy as simply running off that information and handing it out at your local Catholic or Church of England, churches. And, that's the way we make more contacts and make this whole movement grow.
Sure. And, of course, once people start looking, it is like opening a can of worms, isn't it? Because they're going to find a lot more. Very significant what you said just before about so one person out of 32 got back to you, and the fact that there was no denial by the church, I think, it says it all, doesn't it? So, okay, is there anything else you feel you need to tell us at this point then, Kev, at all?
Well, over the next week, follow our work at itccs.org. If you need to contact me directly, my email is hiddenfromhistory1@gmail.com. And again, it's at first brush, when you see how the government is trying to keep me so desperately out of England, that's an admission of weakness on their part as well, and we shouldn't let that demoralize us. And if anything, it's going to bring us more attention, these acts of censorship and attempt to keep the people with the knowledge out of the country. That's something that in the future we're definitely going to overcome. So I would urge people to support especially the efforts you're doing, Lisa. You've been a real bright light in all of this, keeping the issue alive there. So I just urge listeners to support your work and your program and follow our work, and I hope to see you all very soon in the spring.
Great, sure. Okay, well, I guess that we're pretty much up to date. So I'd just like to say massive thanks, Kev, for coming on. And there's those of us who know what's going on are all behind you all the way on this. It's good to talk, and we will, of course, be updating everyone every step of the way on all of this. And all of us here at CMR send our heartfelt encouragement and support to you and to the ITCCS. And I'm sure that we will talk again soon, because I'm sure there'll be stuff happening. So, so basically, we just say take care, and may everything that's good in this world be with you. And if you hang on, we'll have a quick word. I'll end the recording, and then we'll have a quick word afterwards. Okay.
Lisa.
Okay, cheers. Thanks very much, Kev. Okay, so that was the interview from Kevin Annett, and as he said there, basically in a nutshell, it's all about everybody getting out there and making people aware, and I think that's the key point here. So this evening I was going to do on the show a bit of a bio on Nikola Tesla, the Serbian-American inventor, electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, physicist and futurist, who was best known for his contributions to the design of the modern alternating current. But basically because of last-minute events this week, I did have to squeeze a bit more into the show, so I'm actually going to leave that until next week. So apologies to anyone who was waiting for that, but I will be covering that extensively on next week's show. So as well as everything else that's been going on this week, on a positive note, it has kind of been one of a sort of enlightenment for me, because I have really, really felt in the last 5 or 6 days that everything's speeding up so very much now, and something special seems to be happening. This week, it just feels like the many contacts that I've built up over many, many months of trying to be as active as I can in fighting this corrupt system have just suddenly seemed to be merging together, and everyone seems to be coming into the same space. And I realise this will probably sound, yet again, terribly corny to some, but I just feel deep in my heart, and it just feels like this is what's meant to be. And one of those one of the most important tools I think that we have at our disposal as humans is our instinct, hence the phrase gut feeling, obviously. And I think we all need to learn to go with our guts as much as possible, because we don't get these feelings for nothing. And I really do feel inside that this is all happening for a reason. And a path is being forged here, and it is a path that, although undoubtedly will be filled with obstacles, it will eventually take us to where we need to be. So I will say that I urge as many of you like-minded thinkers out there to please join us on this journey, because those of us who get it will understand that this is the only path that we can take, and it is the path that will set us free. Right, okay, so last week I started reading from Robert Young's new book, Your Own Supercomputer, a handbook for the future, and I think it contains valuable information for us, which is what I said last week. And just to recap for anyone that wasn't listening last week, I'm just going to read out the introduction to the book, the quote here. Robert Young is a visionary. His clear recognition of people and their capabilities have been welcome all over the world. Our personal supercomputer is an integral part of our being that manages the very mysteries of life and the incredible events that often occur out of nowhere. With the advancement of humanity, we are now ready to introduce the extended capabilities of our personal supercomputer and highlight its practical application in our everyday life. And Robert actually himself, his own personal introduction at the start of the book, again, I did read this last week, but for those that weren't listening, he did say, "This book was inspired by the general observation of what people demonstrate to one another every day. It has been prepared as a gift to every person on earth in reflection of the great abilities and resources available to humanity. With respect and honour, I now invite you personally to enjoy the revelation and jump into that world of magic and miracles that you have demonstrated since childhood. Love and Harmony, Robert." So I'm just going to put on part 2 of that book. This is chapter 2 from Robert Young's book. Right, so time to wrap up. My God, that went quick. Not quite been the show I planned tonight, but it was fantastic to have our Rob on, rather than him being incarcerated somewhere at a certain lady's pleasure, so that alone's made our day here. Next up, as always, we have my dear friend and colleague, Mr. Jingle George himself, the Reverend with the Prisoner broadcast. And tonight he has on the show Marcus Allen, who is the UK publisher of Nexus magazine, who will be talking to Pippa. Also David Lloyd, a researcher and broadcaster from City Talk Radio Liverpool. Of course, that would have to be the thing that was on Scout Night. And our very own Alex is also appearing, Alex from the Razor Show. He's going to be talking about, I think it's Freedom Northwest and We Are Change Manchester. So that's all coming up at 9 o'clock right after me. So, once again, it's time to say goodnight, folks. And as always, I thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have gained something from the show. And please help us try to spread the important information we broadcast to as many as possible. And let us all try, as much as is possible, to step outside our daily distractions and join forces and unite to move this world onto a better plane, because heaven knows it needs it. So I send my heartfelt love to you all, and I wish you all a perfect life, perfect health, and a magic future. And I'm going to end with a tribute to the wonderful Scottish Highlands tonight, something which has been quite relevant this week. So good night, everybody, and take care, and I'll see you next week.